You have one candidate, Trump, who actually tells you he's going to govern like an authoritarian. He says it.
Yeah.
It's not a mystery. And you've got to make a choice. You have to make a choice. Do we want fascism or do we want to continue the 248 years of self-rule? I'm Rob Reiner, and America, we've got a problem. We've been attacked by a foreign enemy power, and our president refuses to defend us.
What is going on with y'all, man? It is Black Balloon, and I'm coming back with another video, man, so y'all already know what's going on. All right, y'all. Y'all can see by the title of this video what we're here to talk about. Now, this video may not be too long, but I did want to get on here and talk about it. Rob Reiner. Now, when I saw this story, you know, it first dropped as a 78-year-old man and a 68-year-old woman. And the articles and stuff about it being reported started to hit around 3:30 p.m. on Sunday. Instantly red flags. Anytime someone who is in, the club, who's been a part of Hollywood damn near their whole life, and they die on a Sunday, I instantly think sacrifice. Rob Reiner was still worth $200 million. Let's get that out there. We have to remember, I talked about this same thing with Gene Hackman and his wife. This also made me think about them two. They just died earlier this year. What, February they died, or January? I think the autopsy was released in March, and of course they said he died of natural causes, chronic blood pressure, chronic high blood pressure, heart disease, and so on, right? And his wife, she died from like some kind of virus or something like that. I can't remember. And the dog died. Can't forget about the dog. Now, I get to thinking about this money. Now, I read that Gene Hackman was still worth about $100 million when he died, and that supposedly his kids were not named in the will, but according to California law, they will still inherit his estate. Now, I don't know how true that is or if that is actually going to happen, but something tells me that Hollywood does not want to see these people, have all this money, die with it. Well, they can't take it with them. But, I just feel like some of that stuff is what fuels these sacrifices. Now, I have a couple of clips that I want to show y'all where people are just talking about it, and I agree. Just had this one clip points out the fact that we just had the two mass shootings. Then we get Rob Reiner and his wife dying, supposedly being stabbed multiple times by their own child. Now, what was something to note that I saw in one of the articles was that I think they were at Conor O'Brien's house the night before, and in the media, they're kind of using that as fuel for his son, saying that they got into a shouting match. And then next thing you know, the next day, 3:30 p.m. in the middle of the day, they're supposedly all stabbed up and murdered in their LA home.
I mean, we get into issues, and I would see, the whole process for me, I can just speak for myself, it did make me understand him a lot more, and I think it made me a better father. Hopefully it did. I don't know, but I think that, and you'll see it in the film, what happens is, your kid, if your kid is going through rough times, the parent your main job is to keep your child safe. So I would do anything. I felt.
Now, I'm not gonna lie. His son looks like an absolute psycho. He wasn't caring for nothing his dad was talking about. It almost seemed like his dad wasn't even trying to say the wrong thing. Not gonna lie. Almost seems like his dad didn't want to piss off his own son. And why in the hell did his eyes turn like this. Look at it, y'all. Replay the clip. This man was looking straight at us, and his eyes just did something I ain't never seen in my life. Why is them eyes turning? They went the opposite direction. This ain't cockeyedness. He got a loose eye. I don't know what this is. If this some kind of demonic possession, I don't know what this is. Play the clip back. Watch his eyes at the end. They separate. What in the hell did I just see? Other than that, his son, look, I'm not going to lie. And I don't even want to feed the narrative that his son did it because it's too fitting. It's too perfect. But he looked like a damn psycho. Which they stayed next to two other comedians as well who was there on scene after they heard about it. Now, I can't think of their names, but it was two other comedians that stayed right next to them. And Rob Reiner and his wife also had a house across the street that his daughter and her kids stayed in. Now, mind you, like I said, they are still worth $200 million. And I don't know, I just always have to point that out when these older Hollywood actors and stars end up dying in very weird circumstances. It really reminded me of Gene Hackman and his wife. Um, it's almost like we're dealing with the same thing, but obviously to the media, you know, the narrative is murder in this case with Rob Reiner. But without me talking too much right here, y'all, let's just jump into a couple of clips that I thought were pretty interesting. Check this out.
Well, it does not surprise me that the sacrifices are starting early this year around the winter solstice. And it was none other than famous writer, director, producer Rob Reiner and his wife. Now, they are investigating their son to be the main culprit in the murder. But I would say to be on the lookout, especially today being the 1/5, this is not going to be the only sacrifice that you guys see. We've already had multiple mass shootings that have happened as soon as, the season of Hanukkah has started. And as I've explained to people before, that, they call Hanukkah the Festival of Lights. There's a reason why they do that. Lucifer, the light bearer, there's a lot of things that go based around that Festival of Lights, the illuminated ones. So if you just look a little deeper, but I find it pretty interesting that you could have looked this up the other day and it still would have been there. In Gematria, if you put Rob Reiner in Gematria, it says pre-sacrifice. That's about all I need to see to be able to know what's going on. And I'm telling you guys, be on the lookout because these celebrity sacrifices and type of stuff is going to start happening more and more.
Rob Reiner and his wife. First, there was two mass shootings where multiple people lost their life. Then they just announced that Rob Reiner and his wife was found in his Brentwood home in Los Angeles dead. Mind you, when they first released this information, they said it was a 78-year-old man and a 68-year-old woman that was shot. Now TMZ is saying that allegedly they were found with stab wounds. But here's the part that hits hardest. Rob is a famous director, a public figure that was living in a very secure part of LA, and a murder investigation with little info released so far. So they're saying that firefighters were called to the mansion in Brentwood, Los Angeles for a medical aid call. And when they walked in, they found two dead bodies. A man, Robert Reiner, and his wife. But here's the biggest question. Why were the firefighters called? And why were they called for a medical call instead of just being called for a homicide call? Then you gotta ask, why did the police immediately bring in the robbery division? And then you gotta ask, who made the 911 call and why? At this point, they're not saying much, but it's a lot of things that need to be questioned.
A lot of these Hollywood deaths, actors and directors, seem like, it's another script being written. Now, the reason I played that clip in the beginning is because a lot of people believe that he was silenced for his political views. I mean, right before he died, his last TV interview, he was talking about the death of Charlie Kirk and Erica Kirk. And Rob Reiner was also fluish. So we can't forget that. And he said that in that clip. If I'm not mistaken, I saw it on like the Daily News. It might have been like a Piers Morgan type of thing. And so he obviously had very loud political views, very much so against Trump, and believing that he's going to destroy America's democracy, if you even believe in democracy in the first place, right? But, very loud in his political views. And when I saw that he mentioned, he was like he's a believer in forgiveness and stuff like that because he was talking about Erica Kirk, and he just happened to mention that he was fluish.
You first heard about the murder of Charlie Kirk. What was your immediate gut reaction to it?
Absolute horror. It's beyond belief what happened to him, and that should never happen to anybody. I don't care what your political beliefs are. That's not acceptable. And I felt like what his wife said at the service, that the memorial they had, was exactly right. I'm Jewish, but I believe in the teachings of Jesus, and I believe in forgiveness. She forgave his assassin, and I think that is admirable.
And I just thought, that seems very interesting. Very interesting with, how much talk there's been about Israel and Charlie Kirk and Erica Kirk, and this was his last time being, interviewed to the public. I just thought that was very interesting, something to note. A lot of people think he was actually silenced and that it was not his son. And we're only like a day and a half, into the whole thing, and people are already thinking that way. Now, obviously, who I have on the screen is Peter Green. Now, I'm pretty sure y'all saw he died on Friday, and guess what? The police were called to his Lower East Side apartment at 3:25 p.m. They were called to Reiner's home in Brentwood, LA, very, very rich area full of a bunch of people from Hollywood. They were called to his home at 3:28, I think was the exact time. So we got both of these, former Hollywood actors. Peter Green was lying face down on the floor with blood everywhere when police found him dead. But they're not giving a cause of death. It's not saying that he was murdered or anything. They also said there was a strange note found laying next to him. But there's nothing else to give. Nothing else about this. You can go look up an article. You're not going to find any reason or any cause of death of Peter Green. It's just that he was found unconscious, full of blood, and a strange note. And you wonder, who found him that way? Who found him that way? It's almost the same thing with, Gene Hackman. It's almost the same thing with Michael K. Williams. I always bring up Michael K. Williams because he also died in New York in his apartment, and someone just randomly called the police and found him unconscious, dead. It always happens like that. It's like, who made the call? Even with Rob Reiner, who made the call? So once again, you start to recognize the patterns of a lot of these sacrifices that come from Hollywood, no matter how old they are. I mean, 60 years old, you're fairly young, At 60, you still got a lot of life left. And they say he had problems with drugs in the 90s, early 2000s, especially on set, which may have caused his career to be a little bit slower than it should have, but still very popular, very known for Pulp Fiction and The Mask. I'm pretty sure a lot of y'all know who Peter Green is. And yeah, man, it's just a continuing story with this stuff, which is why I was able to just get on here and be like, you know what, I got to talk about it because you recognize the patterns with it. But with that being said, y'all, like I said, I just wanted to get on here and make a quick video, man. See what y'all think about it. That being said, y'all, it's Black Balloon, and I'm going to see y'all soon, all right? I'm out.